Nathan, the ecology and the environment is, of course, a common problem in today's world, from climate change, which is arguably the most critical problem that the globe has at the moment, to biodiversity and the ethical requirements behind it. All of these are critical issues. Many of them are subject to scientific analysis. There may be controversy about it. What can philosophy of biology bring to these topics that might be a perspective that scientists themselves or the general public don't appreciate?
Well, I think ecology and environmental science is in many ways the highest level of science. It has the most layers underneath it. And that's what philosophy is particularly good at, is finding truth at the uppermost levels. And so, for example, in ecology, you have species that interact with one another, depend on one another, live with one another, in all complex webs of these interactions. And our instinct would be that if you pick one piece out and it's not going to matter, or something else fills it in, and a biologist might even think that. But what we find is that the uniqueness of that ecosystem depends on all of the parts interacting that way. And so when you wipe out a lot of species in favor of one, planting a crop, for example, you really alter all kinds of levels underneath that and above that that change what can live there successfully. And what we're doing is as we recreate the planet all around the place, we're creating new ecosystems that are simpler in the wake of more rich, biodiverse ecosystems that were there before.
With uncertain implications of what those are. Or if you introduce an animal or into a geographical area because it needs to eliminate certain insects, and you introduce it and it seems to work, but the unintended consequence of what that animal may then do and interact, it's very difficult to predict.
That's correct, because you change one element of a food web, both downstream and upstream will be affected, and that's what we've seen. And so as we bring these environmental science questions into the public, the public has to make sense of a lot of information. And when it comes to making decisions about the climate, for example, and industrialization, these are ultimately philosophical questions, because you have competing interests. You have competing narratives of what the future of the planet should be. It doesn't matter how many species live on the planet. Why do we care about the richness of a certain biodiverse space? And that's a question that the public has to answer, because a biologist can tell you what that can describe an ecosystem, but they don't have an opinion on what that ecosystem should be. All right, those should kind of questions are really the realm of philosophy.
So philosophers can frame the subject not for the philosophers to make the decision, but for the public or for the public representatives to make the decisions in a more clarified way, which the philosopher can bring to it.
That's right, and it would be congruent with the science, hopefully. And then you also have political philosophy that comes in and helps us understand how people make choices. People rarely vote against their self-interest, and so we have to understand exactly why is it in our interest to care about the planet and to care about the climate. The planet will go on. Life will go on this planet long after humans are gone. So why do we care about the climate? For example, global temperatures rising. Well, there's huge implications for that, especially for certain individuals in certain places will suffer a lot. And what we now know is pretty clear is the individuals least responsible for example, carbon emissions are the ones that are going to suffer the most from the elevated temperatures. And so that's competing interests. And that's when we need to consider solidarity as a species rather than as a country, or even as a state, or even as a political party. So we have to try to activate our instincts on solidarity larger than our immediate group. So that's a philosophical question, but it's also a biological question, because we are wired to prefer in group, to protect ourselves in our group. So if we can, the more we're globalized in that sense of self, the more that we will care about sea levels and a faraway continent.